go astray. Answers always lie in confusion. Do they though?
わからない。
Well, only those who bravely enter will be rewarded, so let's just get into it. I'm Fate and you're watching Tiny Wave TV. So I recently watched Wolf's Rain and girl, to think that this gem has been around since 2003 and only now I find out about it? What have I been doing with my life? Loved the show for a number of reasons, but what really made me admire it was the narrative structure, aka how different elements like plot, character, setting, etc. come together to tell the story. Narratives like that of Wolf's Rain are like a breath of fresh air because they don't control our understanding of the story too much. What I've realized about narrative in anime is that there's a lot of explaining. It sure depends on the kind of anime we're talking about, but the techniques I'm about to name will sound familiar to you. The character's dialogue or internal monologue, you know, when they just directly analyze everything, showing the same scene over and over, or just throwing in a narrator to explain or summarize. These methods strictly shape our perception of what's going on in the anime and leave little room for speculation. Like you won't go, oh, this scene, I don't know what it means. The answers will eventually arrive, so we become kind of passive as the audience. You just can't be passive when watching Wolf's Rain because it gets you involved. The narrative's got a show, not tell kind of policy. There's a lot going on with the visuals, so you need to watch carefully. There's not a lot of explaining in form of dialogue or monologue, so you need to listen carefully. The narrative structure does a great job in presenting the concepts this anime is working with, including this important question: what is our purpose? We meet a bunch of characters that face this problem time and again. They wander in this dystopian setting searching for a utopia while nobody knows anything for sure. They find a clue, they lose it. They find it again, then the antagonist shows up and rains on the parade. Because devil works hard but the antagonists work harder. The narrative gets us on board by asking the question and leaving room for us to think it over. As we watch the characters doing the same thing, we find ourselves on the same boat with them, lost at sea looking for answers. All of that made me think of the importance of getting lost. Not like we need to go and get lost, but like the insight that it can give. Remember the quote from the beginning of the video? It's the wisdom of the owl. But what is this sketchy bird up to? Who is it? I mean, I didn't really ask that second question, but at some point it occurred to me, is this Grandpa Darsha? Because it was the same voice, at times the same words, and their eyes look kind of similar. I was like, am I delusional or what? Let me Google it. Here's what I found, which makes sense, except I think there's more to it. The owl is shady, yes, but malicious? I'm not sure. Darsha the First, I believe, was on the right track at some point, because they show him standing next to the white wolf and they're looking toward the same direction. But then the background changes into the lab, the wolf disappears, and there's this dark shadow on his face. So he lost his way, which led to disaster. Now he's just a wandering ghost. He shows up in the forest of death, where people lose their way, and the Garden of Eternity, a place for the dead apparently. Also, it's an owl, an omen, or a messenger of death. In the Forest of Death, the owl leads the pack into the cave, which gives them a really hard time with the insects, but they find their way out in the end. In the Garden of Eternity, the owl is there when Kiba is losing his memories. Just like before, it's kind of echoing what others say. But when it goes, all the answers lie beneath the sand. Kiba's body is actually in a desert at that point. So was that a hint? Kiba doesn't seem to recognize the owl at all, but is found and saved in the end. Now, based on what we've seen of the owl, do you think it was helping the wolves or confusing them? You can let me know in the comments. I think both can be true, but it could be neither as well. Rather than being able to guide or lead people astray, the owl to me was more like a warning sign. Wolf's Rain defines death as staying in the same place and not moving forward. The owl is a symbol of that, the way it sounds like a broken record at times. The story of Darsha the First and his afterlife as the owl stand as a reminder of what it will be like if someone gets lost beyond redemption. Wolf's Rain, with its masterful narrative, not only shows but also allows us to feel for ourselves that 1. It's only natural to get lost sometimes, and 2. Confusion can very well lead us to where we need to be. No one will tell you what the right way to live is, so we make decisions that we believe are the best. Sometimes we realize those weren't the best decisions. What matters is not losing sight of what matters, because that's the light that can guide us out of the dark in the end. Do I sound like a motivational speaker or what? Whew. Anyway, before we wrap this up, I got a bit of a side note. Darsha III once said about the owl Darsha that he was a man who only thought of himself and not of those he left behind. When he was opening the paradise, he was on his own. The white wolf wasn't there. But compare that to Kiba and the pack. They found their way through the cave because they were together. And with Cheza, Kiba was able to return from the Garden of Eternity because the pack found him. It goes on to say how company matters. And maybe I should make another video on the characters of the series. You guys let me know, and see you next time.